here between the top two teams in North America. And Taco, I mean, we've gotten to see a lot happen over here. The picks and bans are so important. What are you expecting to see?
I'd imagine there to be a similarity with Luminosity probably trying to keep Osiris or Kakolin away from Benji on Eunited. There's been a lot of talk in the arena from these players saying you pretty much just don't want to allow Benji to have a god that can play the lane as much of a lane bully style as an Osiris.
You talk about those two specific gods, but the way Benji was able to play the Hercules against Trifecta was very impressive. He didn't allow Kiki to actually play the game, especially when Venenu played Morrigan to transform into that Hercules. So I think, more importantly, it's this Morrigan pick from LG that's going to be stripped away.
We do see Circuit already banned out by Eunited, taking a bit of a look there towards the jungle of Luminosity, limiting some of what Maz can do, and also just no one wants to go up against Circuit. I mean,
nobody wants to deal with Circuit. She has a ton of control, and the true damage allows you to be able to build her way more defensive than what people are probably accustomed to, so just too much of a hindrance. Loving the AMC ban though, even though Luminosity could utilize that to their own advantage, recognizing that it's just a very strong pick in general right now, taking that option away.
It's one of the best lane pushers at level 1. You put a blue stone on that bad boy and you're just going to be able to invade any which lane you want. And on the flip, Eunited taking away Ho Yi, really trying to focus out Barracuda.
Yeah, it looks like the focus here has really been on those, like you said, those pushers, those ones with high clear early on. That jungle camp is not jungle camp, but jungle control early on in the game is so important here, Taco.
Of course, you never want to allow a Hu Yi to have that pressure of being able to not only self-clear for the jungle, but also just pushing out that lane. Bluestone alongside of the Ricochet makes it incredibly easy to get some dominance going in that side of the map. And when Ricochets start getting factored into team fights as well, and especially around those Gold Fury objectives, that's an instance you don't want to have to deal with.
United now can play a little bit more aggressive, not having to worry about this Hu Yi, not just the Ricochet that can bounce around double, triple, but also the Suns that's going to be that slowing minefield. So Luminosity, without these 200 picks, I'm not really too worried for Barracuda because his god pool is just so wide.
With this early of a Hu Yi ban, though, it could possibly be alluding to maybe wanting that Izanami selection. She's still a hunter that can have a lot of lane pressure and dominance. And additionally, her first ability with that boosted attack speed that changes from the boomerang attacks to singular autos is probably one of the best boxing actives in the game.
Morgan going to be the first pick locked in for Eunited. So you already talked a little bit about how priority this pick is. So Eunited taking that one away for themselves.
Venenu going to be feeling very comfortable on this god, and something he was able to do was in the beginning of the game when Scream was playing the Ratatasker, he would try to accompany that with double global pressure, but then in the later stages, you switch to the Bruiser, you're going to be more tanky, harder to kill, you're going to get off more rotation of cooldowns, and then have more control for your team.
This Morgan selection is also incredibly smart because it's a pick that Luminosity might have been trying to secure for themselves as well, just because we saw how great of a performance Baskin had on that the other day. And the Ratatasker, this is another selection I was expecting to come through from Luminosity, but because United took the Morrigan, they technically have a Ratatasker if they choose to.
That's why they picked Morrigan right off the bat, because they knew that Hercules and Ratatasker would be that highly contested pick, and without this global pressure now from United going for a double Bruiser combo between solo and jungle, they're going to be leaning more about that backline penetration than trying to gank these side lanes early on.
Soul coming in for LG2, so trying to get someone in that mid lane who can provide some big damage with that ultimate. But as you said, the more of these big time ultimates that come in, the more scary this Morgan pick ends up being for United. Likely it'll be Rat, but that just gives them more and more options.
What's ideal for Venenu right now, though, is he has the option for the Ratatasker if he wants that semi-global presence with the ult, but he also has a perfect dive composition with the rest of his team. Robin, Kakolin, those are guys who are looking to get into your face and stay there. And when you have a Morgan added into the mix, that's technically a second Robin or a secondary Kakolin, and it's going to be really difficult for Luminosity to escape the team fights if they end them on the wrong foot.
No one can feel safe here from Luminosity with that Morgan pick, like you were alluding to. There's too much front line, and I think Luminosity needs to try to figure out a way to get this penetration to be able to melt these targets. Now, considering they already have Ratatasker, we're not going to be seeing a Bakasura or anything like Homiefe was able to do on Space Station, but and without a Ho Yi, there needs to be some options for Barracuda in the late game, and I'm expecting maybe a Ram here.
I would like a ROM selection for Barracuda because it provides that hyper carry presence and it'd be a strong asset alongside of the Soul. But for Eunited, I kind of want to see a Fafnir ban here because with Luminosity taking that Soul, it does leave open the option for those hyper late game carries. And if they have a Fafnir combined on that, it's going to be really difficult for Eunited to protect those objectives.
Already banning away the Ganesh, but something we haven't seen or even talked about yet is this RDO. Neither team picking or banning it quite yet, but in the group play, it was almost, you know, the go-to pick for a lot of these teams.
RDO was certainly a high priority pick there for him, but as you said, Luminosity appeared to be focusing a little bit more towards Panda Cat, trying to limit those hunter options, whereas Eunited ban away the Ganesh. But Fafnir, as you mentioned, would really go well with it, not just in that late game, but even up against objectives to help them burn those just a little bit faster. So it depends totally on what Eunited want to try and focus.
Do they want to focus out reducing some of the objective control with the Fafnir, or do they want to reduce some of the team fight power that the RDO can provide by being able to get in that backline very easily, especially opting to go for Blink? That's not something Jeff Hinlett is known to do very often. He likes to kind of sit in the backline and peel for his team. Xing Chen, though, has been favored by Jeff.
Xingtian in general has been seeing a lot of gameplay here at Super Regionals, not only from European teams, but from some of the NA ones as well. And it's just because he can provide a lot of team fighting control with that ultimate, the ability to scoop up, especially a bunch of warriors who probably aren't all going to necessarily be opting for those purification beads early on. Robin might have the CC immunol, but once he goes in, he's going to be left maybe a little bit out of position at times.
Jing Wei picked up because Barracuda wants to play super safe this game. He wants to farm it up and get to the mid game very cleanly, and the fact that they picked the Hunter here first is very clear that Luminosity don't care if they get the Fafnir or the RDO. That's why they prioritize this Hunter pick, knowing that Eunited still needed one.
And it was a situation that they kind of forced Eunited into. I think that might be part of why they banned that Xing Chen, to make sure that at least one of them is open for themselves. So they take away the Fafnir from themselves and that ROM. So they've got a lot of late game damage, as you said, to go along with their dive comp.
I'm not entirely convinced that it's going to be an RDO selection here, though, for Luminosity. My primary concern for that being that even though the Cripple Field would be great against some of the picks from Eunited, they wouldn't necessarily have as much CC as they might be looking for. And it's going to be the Bacchus instead from Luminosity, and actually a really fun wombo combo coming out between Jingwei and Bacchus with the belly flop and then Jingwei having her own knockup. You could potentially just keep members in the air for long periods of time. It's
going to set up Soul's damage as well between that Stellar Burst and Supernova. I'm expecting a lot of early rotations here because Bacchus is generally known as this aggressive early game support. The Intoxicate just does so much damage, and I think LG want to fight.
And this is interesting. I like that LG picked this up. It shows me that Polar Bear Mike's confident because we saw Bacchus didn't have that much luck. I think it was yesterday when Trifecta played it, but they know they can run it well. Now that you had a chance to see both these comps, though, Taco, who you got here, Eunited or LG?
I think Eunited has a pretty sick draft, actually. I'm going to have to favor them for game one.
I'm actually going the opposite way. Luminosity here, they have Aquarius playing the Hercules. I think he's going to have a slight edge against Benji.
All right, we are split here on the desk, but let's go ahead and get it over to the casters so we can get this game started. Tom, Aggro, and Hindu, take it away.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon and welcome to Super Regionals. I'm Tom Battinger, joined here by Ryan Bailey, Hindu Man, otherwise known as Aggro and Suspended. We've got a fantastic North American finals here for you today. Eunited taking on Luminosity Gaming. I feel like LG is a team that everybody expected to be here, and Eunited was people like, well, they are number one.
I mean, they've looked great all fall split long, and these two teams, I'm so excited they get to meet in the finals because they've been scrim partners throughout the majority of the fall split. They played in the final week of the SPL. They split there as well. So you know these two are very evenly matched and are very familiar with one another.
When it comes down to it, though, they play, I would say, more traditional than some of the other teams that we've seen here this weekend, most notably looking at teams like Elevate, etc. Yeah. But at the same time, they have their own styles. We heard on the desk, Taco was very happy with the overall draft coming out for Eunited. But if you look at LG, they got all their comfort picks.
And LG's composition does look pretty good as well. The one thing I'm looking at in this game is Eunited Venenu. Like, he's playing this Morrigan. That's going to be a big pick. There's a lot of opportunities for him to potentially go crazy because of the amount of different gods that are going to be very useful in these team fights.
Raven being the big one for me, that's going to be the main transformation target for Venenu. That's why I love that early Raven selection alongside the Kukulkan to give Benji something that he's comfortable with and something that he can be aggressive with. Remember, Hercules being picked very early on is kind of just a shot at Benji, making sure that he doesn't get the god that he did so well on earlier on against their semifinal matchup against Trifecta. But that Kukulkan has a little bit of anti-heal in the kit, so it's going to make it not quite as easy for Aquarius in that lane.
It's not just that as well. It's also with that Morrigan, when you look at the roster LG have drafted, there's a Ratatoska. Yeah. I mean, that is another potential engage opportunity for Venenu to go with here, with getting himself out of combat, maybe forcing a reset, and then, hey, we can go again now.
Again, looking at the other side, though, Ratatoska is the god that Mass kind of busted on the scene with. He was like, hey, look, here I am, Ratatoska. And that was the character that really, I think, Mask made that first stride forward with to really solidify himself as one of the regular guys into one of the premier junglers. Going back to the old pick, I got to say I like it.
I mean, he's phenomenal on it, and he played it a lot last year, had a lot of success with it last year, and it continues to be very strong for him, and it's a hotly contested pick between these two teams. That's why I loved the Morrigan pick so much, first selection for United, because it forces Luminosity to take Ratatoska, because then you have to deal with one potentially with the Morrigan ult, but at least you don't have to deal with two.
That's true. And the other thing about this as well is, like, you can tell it's a North American draft as well. We saw the European things. There's a little bit of an addition from some of the European sort of spice that we've seen,
American.
But it is still North American. You can really feel it's a North American final, and you can see it's their sort of play style.
Everybody fighting over the Soul. Soul is like basically holding the American flag, also Canadian, I guess. That NA flag is being held by Soul pretty much throughout the entirety of Super Regionals and even the regular season. Ratatoska has been on both sides, but really more of a North American pick as well. So, yeah, I like to see that individualism coming out from the region.
And you can tell how familiar these two teams are because we're seeing things like Kernino spanned away, and we've seen very little, if any, Kernino so far here at Super Regionals, but to throw a ban at it in your final is just Eunited knowing that Luminosity has played it at least a little bit and have the ability to pull it out.
And I'm pretty surprised we're not seeing too much Kernino overall through the tournament too, especially against like triple tank, because those frontline tanks, I mean, you are forced into Piggy. There's no choice.
I don't know. I think here at Super Regionals Hunters, you're getting all the farm in the world.
True.
Don't go for the mid game pick. Go for the super late game pick. We're seeing the amusing cops. We're seeing the gods like that. So I think that's where those coming from.
It's more to do with the fact that when you've got these team fights going on, and they are big team fights where they're all grouped together, that ultimate coming out from Kernels can make a big impact because it doesn't get diminishing returns either, which can really be a big point.
Plus, having that additional penetration in your kit from the shifting seasons is really great against those triple tanks. So it can be a very flexible pick in this meta.
Very true. Just bear with us one more time. We're going to get into game in just a couple of minutes. Players having a couple of issues getting things off the ground, but as soon as we start it, we should be flying. So one more time, Eunited versus Luminosity, best of 5 scenario. Both teams fought their way out a number of days ago, and that's what I want to bring up next, is the fact that the past 2 days have been group stages. So Eunited and LG have just kind of been iced out, right? Barracuda, I mean, has he played Smite in 3 days? How do you feel about that?
The big thing about this is, yes, he's not played in 3 days, but all they've done is watch. So they've seen the meta develop throughout, but not had chance to partake in the meta changes. So now they're coming in like, okay, so we've seen these things. Is this something we want to adapt to? Is this something we want to go with as well?
But at the same time, if a tree falls in the woods and nobody's there to hear it, what the hell actually happened? United and Luminosity, they all got to watch this meta unfold, but they didn't take part in it. So are they part of it?
No, they don't really need to be, though, because neither of them have played the last 3 days. So they can continue to play their own meta and try and take what they've learned from everyone else and maybe apply a little bit of it into their match. Look, these two teams have been around the arena a lot. Sometimes when teams qualify and don't have to play for a couple days, we don't see them for a couple days. That has not been the case for either of these two teams. They have been ingesting all of the Smite from Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and I'm expecting that they're going to have at least a little bit of adjustments coming into what they thought they were going to be playing.
As a player, though, you were a player pretty recently, right?
Was he?
He says
recently
so.
enough.
He says so.
Okay.
Well, a couple of days off, is that good or bad for you?
I like it. I think that if you can continue to work with your team, and the big deal is you don't want to have a couple days off against a team that's been playing every day for the last few days. That's where I think the disparity can kind of come in, and that they're warmed up, they're prepared, and you aren't. But if you've both been off for the last 3 days, I think it kind of washes. I'm not worried about it.
It's funny, we've seen in the past as well with these sort of situations where it doesn't really matter too much to the teams. They've already qualified for High Res Expo, but there is additional prizing, but it's not just that, it's the #1 seed. that's going to be really influential because whoever comes out of Europe as the #1 seed, you're not going to have to face to the finals, worst case scenario.
You know, if you're not here, it's kind of tough to sell like, well, they're fighting for pride, right?
Sure.
But if you know these guys, you know 100% that actually matters. I tweeted out during the picks and bans, me and Ryan are sitting out there in the pit, as I like to call it, watching the game, and the first ban comes out, and Basket just goes, "Nice ban, idiots!" Yep. And I was like, so this is how it's going to go. All right, no problem.
I thought Jeff was going to go in too, but then Jeff goes, "Hey, Panda, be my friend," and that's all it was. So I just
Panda's like,
Jeff.
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, look, just like when you have your friendly competitions with your friends, you want, it's fun, but at the same time, you want to embarrass them. You want to make sure that you've got all the bragging rights so that you can be like, hey, remember that time that we 3-0'd you at Super Regionals when you thought you were good? That's important to these guys, and they're very close, but like I said, that makes it that much sweeter if you're able to really beat them.
I mean, look, we can't really talk about our Smite play, but Graham and I play a lot of, we play a lot of cards together, and Graham and I will wind up in the finals, and like, it's fun because you play with a bunch of randos, and you're like, haha, we did really well enough to get here.
Yeah.
Haha. And then midway through game 1, you're like, I hope you lose miserably.
Serious
and I think that's what, like, you know, Jeff is sitting here like, let's be friends, haha. And then one belly flop intoxicate, and Panic Cat's going to be like, I know where you live, so stop this, right?
And actually, going to that backers pick as well, go and bring it right back into the game now. This backers pick is interesting to me because it's only really been Jeff that's pulled it out, and we've seen a lot of Stone of Gaia. We're back on screen.
We're back on screen.
Stone of Gaia as well. That's the interesting thing.
Yeah.
We're going to see the Stone of Gaia, which
We definitely
we've seen
will.
a lot of Stone of Gaia as the tournament's gone on.
Now, here's the idea. Just like before, whenever Stone of Gaia immuned all knockups and it made characters like Fenrir and Ares feel really bad, the strategies are you either don't pick any knockups or you pick so many that some of them are going to work. And that's been the idea here for Luminosity. The passive isn't as strong against knockups as it used to be. Now it just increases your regen heavily, really, really quickly. But you're going to get Herc pulled, and then by the time you get rat alted, that passive won't be up. By the time you get belly flopped, the rat alt will be effective or the Herc pull will be effective. So with how many knockups Luminosity has, Stone of Gaia absolutely should be a pickup here, but it might not be the make or break.
And it's also not just about the knockup. I mean, the Bacchus pick, everybody looks square at the knockup, and you probably should be. But Jeff also on the Fat Man, I mean, this is peanut butter and jelly. This is ketchup and eggs. This is as classic as a combination goes. And Jeff, sure, obviously the knockup is how you find your initiation, but he's going to lean heavily on the natural tankiness of the character and a lot of the other aspects that Bacchus brings.
Seeing Barracuda and Panda Cat start in the mid lane, though, is so strange. At least this is something that you've seen happen a lot, but both those characters are generally left on their own in the dual lane just to farm up in the early stages, generally in a 2v1, but now we're in this scenario here.
I like this come around here, just chased out by Luminosity. Venenu finds himself having to pop a potion already.
There's good pressure there, and that's the risk of having a 2v2 that doesn't have one team be significantly ahead of the other. I like the idea here, though, from Venenu and Panda Cat. Panda Cat should pick this red buff up and immediately just go back to left because he's losing farm by staying in mid now because you aren't invading, you aren't getting pressure, and now he's going to be able to pick up some of this wave if Polar Bear Mike wants to hold it for him, which, of course, he won't because it's PBM. And now it's going to be Barracuda who's slightly behind because Jeff won't be able to come in and help on this purple buff invade.
That's fair, and he might get it stolen away now because of that. This red is going to probably go down. Actually, no. Barrett just in time to the rescue.
Nice last hit there coming out from the Hunter. Mask and the sprint is popped. There's one knockup. There's two knockups. And Polar Bear Mike, he's going to be the first casualty of this finals. Luminosity on the board. Jeff Hindla with the kill.
That's Mask being familiar with how Eunited likes to play this early game. When they don't get the invade successfully, they'll go towards their red buff, head towards dual lane, and then try and interrupt Barracuda. Also a huge deal that Barra is the one who actually secures that red buff. Don't know if that would have been enough XP to push United's dual lane over to level 3, but if at least would have made it so that Barra wouldn't be as likely to fight. And he wouldn't have had a red buff to do as much damage to PBM.
And the kill goes to Jeff Hindler as well. If you notice, he started off with Boots 1 here, so he's looking for a faster Boots opportunity, more than likely going for the Talaria, so the extra mobility will allow him to rotate around the map a little bit more quicker.
You bring up Talaria. If you're Bacchus, I always like to see the aggressive move. I like Boots and the Magi. I think that kind of Bacchus is the warrior guardian, and I like to see that come out from him.
At some point, yes, but at the same time, for the same reasons, I really like that the tank boots for him.
Baskin in a lot of trouble here. The Aegis already down, and now he's wrapped around on. In comes Mask trying to support, but Baskin will fall to Scream, and now Venenu's on the run.
Mask gonna get the last hit as well, so a nice little back and forth, but Scream can't find the last hit. The tick damage not good enough. Bluestone will be the ire of the woes, and Mask walks away clean, 2-1 Luminosity.
Scream was on that right-hand side, was able to wrap around, and Baskin just didn't have enough information, no wards in the early stages here. And look at the Chalice of the Oracle that Polar Bear Mike picked up in that support role where Jeff Hinla did not. He just bought some early wards, but they weren't on that right-hand side.
Meanwhile, here's the jump on the right-hand side. Aquarius once stood in the solo lane, but Benji changes the name, takes another partner, and takes down the solo laner. Aquarius falls down.
That's the power of that Raven. I mean, that ultimate just does so much work in those engagements, and it allowed Benji to help clean up the kill and get the kill.
And I mean, Aquarius had used his ultimate in order to clear the wave, just trying to get pressure, but usually once you use your ult to clear the wave, you're back afterwards. Instead, he was just using it to get pressure, but ended up coming back to bite him because Benji had the perfectly timed transformation. And that Raven ultimate, man, it would talk about an impactful one. Not only does it give you a ton of damage on the actual character that you hit, but it acts as a mini Sunder, meaning that everyone else is doing more damage to that target, and it gives you damage mitigation on top of that.
Right now, if you're at all familiar with these teams, you kind of have to be, well, if you're an Eunited fan, pretty happy, and if you're not, well, the other side. The right side of the map, the Fire Giant side of the map, is definitely the heavy lifting side of the map for Eunited. Benji and Scream do a lot of the carrying for the squad, and when you see 1 kill on Benji, 1 kill on Scream at 4 minutes, you know things are going right for the red, white, and blue.
Now, that being said, Mask has actually done a great job of farming. He's top of the net worth charts right now, so Luminosity's right side of the map certainly not faltering too much. Aquarius is a little bit behind, but that comes down to the fact that Mask has not been there to make sure that he can stay safe. If necessary, Mask can head over, make sure that Aquarius gets a wave or two without any pressure, and then you can start to kind of give that lead back to your solo laner for Luminosity.
And I will say, Mask just looking to farm during the early game is quite wise against someone like the Raven in the jungle. We've already talked about the warrior jungles, that they need to get off ahead of steam, and that's exactly what Scream is doing. The assassin, he'll start to appear a little bit later on if you're in this matchup. Normally you see the assassins go a little bit harder, like the Circuit earlier on.
But right now, Mask has his Acorn online, and so he's kind of looking to start a little nonsense, which he does. Aquarius comes through, but doesn't get the message to back off. Mask going to come through with the ultimate a little bit late, finds the kill, but unfortunately, after the fact that Aquarius falls down, Polar Bear Mike with the transformation, the jump, Mask follows, here's Scream to say no.
But Mask is still going to be in trouble now because Scream might be able to run him down with Venenu coming in, turning into another Raven. They'll turn their attention to Jeff Hinla and make sure it's a 2 for 2 with the fight still going.
Scream needs to be at least a little bit careful, though, because Mask and Best can have plenty of damage here to bring him down and only take 1 Acorn stun from Mask. Really good response by Luminosity. Aquarius just gets caught out there, and again, it comes down to Benji getting those fire elementals, pinging level 8, gives him a little bit more damage, and he shreds through Aquarius very quickly, but a well-timed mitigate wounds from Aquarius, make sure that he can get his boulder off, make sure that he can get as much damage off as he can before he dies, and a better rotation from Jeff Hinla just being more impactful in that fight.
Problem with the pathing, though, that sort of semicircle coming out that backs up the Fire Giant, that split up Luminosity right there. You saw the majority of the squad go left. Aquarius went right, and unfortunately for him, that was the wrong call by his lonesome. A couple of United members collapsed on him, and at the end of the day, 3 beats 1.
And I love the fact as well, this Hercules focus coming out from United early on. One of the things Hercules is going to do, yes, late game, he's still going to be Hercules, he's still going to tank up a lot, but put him down in the early game means that transition to the mid-game, later stages takes a little bit longer.
But United needs to be wary that they need to change targets soon enough. I mean, it's not going to be too long until Aquarius is already too tanky to be the focus for United in a team fight scenario. And that was really the downfall of Obey against their set, against Elevate at the very beginning stages. They were investing too much into the tanks from Elevate. United cannot afford to fall for the same trap.
Right side, a little bit of aggression over these fire elementals. Probably nothing to be too concerned about. Just a little bit of a nonsense. Luminosity able to posture themselves professionally and take control.
It's funny when you see those little skirmishes around there and just like the look at each of it, it's generally, you can tell there might be something happening there when the mid laners are turning up too.
Yeah.
You saw Venenu, and Venenu is something that Luminosity have to be aware of throughout. This stealth is very impactful and will continue to be as the game goes on.
It only gets better as the game goes on for sure, but without his ultimate available right now, that's why you see United being a little bit more conservative with their positioning on that team fight in Oracle or Fire Elementals contestant than their last one, because last time Van had his ult, could transform into the Robin, and that's what ends up making the big difference to kill Jeff Hinla. That Changeling ultimate is on such a long cooldown that it takes some time to come back. Baskin had his ultimate ready to go already.
You know, it's interesting. We see a number of characters. Odin is the first one that comes to mind, that starts as Odin and then slowly turns just into his ultimate. It's the opposite for Morgan, I find, where Morgan in the beginning is generally just the ult bot, turn into somebody else and use their tools, but then late game, that invisible stun, she's just Loki.
And that's why she pairs so well with characters like Ravin, like Ratatosker, early game impactful gods that she can transform into and make that impact. She doesn't need to have an impactful transformation late game, because she is impactful late game by herself.
And it's just that damage that she can put out from the stealth as well that just is destroying. We saw Baskin do it the other day, when actually back on the very first day of Super Regionals, where it caused so many actual problems for them. And then you actually saw the turnaround plays that came out because of that.
What's also fun playing around with the invis is watching Venenu kind of dip out in the right jungle, go invis, and then cross the street back into the left. You can really keep the opponent on the back foot. Right now, Mask trying to protect his speed buff. Scream obviously not going for it, the timer not there, but wanting to get the aggressive vision, and that's definitely been a trend for Luminosity on both sides of the map.
I will say over the course of this tournament that you've seen the focus from North America be a little bit heavier towards enemy speed buffs than we have out of Europe. Yes, Europe still care about them, but not to the extent North America has shown as time's gone on, you know? Like on the right-hand side, it's always, is the speed buff up? Let's invade. Let's look for a kill just before as it spawns.
And sometimes we've seen teams actually be successful looking at the other side of the map, just trying to put pressure on the red buffs, and that's an adjustment that I think these teams we might see them make going farther into this set.
Barry getting real aggressive there on the left-hand side, trying to bring Panda Cat down, gets him down to about yellow. Conservatively, the rest of the team showing up to provide some defense. PBM gets jumped on, however. The burp won't be successful because PBM has a jump of his own.
But Barrett did use his ultimate there, so you saw the amount of aggression he was really looking for with that Barracuda play there. Just looking to keep the pressure on with Panda Cat and continue causing the problems for them. Polar Bear Mike now going to freeze the wave here more often than not to make sure Panda Cat can make sure he doesn't lose any experience.
And this is really important because Panda Cat just finished off those Devourer's Gauntlets, meaning that those stacks are very, very important, whereas Barrow went for the Devourer's Gauntlets right off the bat in order to start his stacking early on. I mean, just take a look at what both hunters have available to them. It's a 50 stack Devourer's Gauntlets with boots and even a light blade for Barracuda against boots and Devo Gauntlets for Panda Cat, but he's only at 10 stacks, so Barra has a great opportunity to play aggressive right now in this matchup.
Funny enough, can we see wards placed as well? Because we did see at the start of the game, Polar Bear Mike started off with that Chalice, and then eventually you saw the Chalice get picked up by Jeff Hindler as well. Surprised by the differences in that. I think it was more to do with maybe we saw the Fafnir looking for the early wall placements to make sure there's no real cheese at the start of the game. But then Jeff has kind of answered that back with one of his own.
Well, Jeff gets to finish off his boots before Polar Bear Mike by picking up the Oracle, the Ward Chalice later on in his build. So Jeff didn't really get a chance to make too much out of that early boots. I'm not sure if he had them completed before PBM on that fight on the right-hand side where it ended up being Jeff Inla being the bigger impact in that team fight. But either way, now that they've both got, their Jade Emperor's crown and their boots and that Ward Chalice, you're not too worried about either one of them falling behind in the Ward category.
Well, we're almost up to 11 minutes here, and kills tied up at 4, gold tied up as well at 29, and Eunited and Luminosity looking pretty strong here, just keeping each other at bay, which these teams are usually, I won't say the most aggressive, but more on the aggressive side than not, and you kind of just want to keep each other on the other side.
Take into account when you look at the gold lead, it's ever so slightly in favor of Eunited, which when you actually think about it too, First Blood went to Luminosity, which shows that Eunited are technically out-farming Luminosity across the map because that First Blood gold is worth 400.
And Baskin is actually a little bit behind Venenu early on, which is not what you expect in the Soul versus Morrigan matchup. Morrigan's early wave clear, not too bad, not quite as good as Soul's, but it's not a big disparity. But Soul's so safe and she can play so aggressive with that Disapparate that usually it lends to Soul's getting a little bit further ahead in the mid lane.
We mentioned those Stone of Guys too. Have a little look at those Stone of Guys on there. Left-hand side, Benji's already got one, but Barrack pressured out so far.
Yeah, United looking for positioning for the Gold Fury. They know the Oracles are coming up right about now, literally right now. Big heads up on that timer, which is why you see them push up into the enemy jungle, looking to catch Luminosity on the come here, because United got there first.
I love the build coming out from Scream here, going for an early Brawler's Beat Stick, because now this opens the door for him ganking the right lane and killing Aquarius before that heal could really be too impactful in that fight. It also gives the option for Venenu to have some anti-heal in his kit if he wants to go over to the solo side of the map and try and make an impact. And because of the threat of Venenu transforming into that Raven, transforming into a Cucullin, someone who can do big physical damage, it's actually Baskin going into a Dynasty plate helm. It's also even the Ratatosker threat of transformation coming from his own side that forces him into this Dynasty plate helm, which does hurt your damage a decent amount in the early stages. Baskin not going to be able to do quite as much as you would expect around this 13-minute mark, but it does give him at least a little bit more safety against the dive potential for Eunited.
But I'm a little bit concerned for Luminosity here against Benji now. With this Stone of Gaia online, 3 of the gods Luminosity have are focused around knockups, so he's going to get a lot of sustain, which means he's going to be very hard to bring down throughout these engagements.
Well, Benji uses the knockup of his own. Mask and Aquarius do what you guys are talking about and come over here on the right-hand side. But Benji kind of just holding his own, not just holding his own, but being aggressive in the 2v1. Supports meet up in mid-rotation towards the solo lane, and Benji still content with standing on the enemy's front lawn.
I know it's what I was saying. Both the supports end up on the right-hand side when the speed buffs are around because they both realize there could be a potential of an engagement.
And that's why I loved how aggressive Benji was playing in that lane right in front of Mask, because any poke right before an invade is the most relevant it can be.
So far, a little bit of aggression here on the left side. Not going to catch Barracuda sleeping. He'll be able to retreat.
But I do like the idea of a United there to rotate to the left-hand side, especially when the speed buffs were just about up. Barra and Panda will both be aware that when speed buffs spawn, there could be aggression between the two of them because they can take a one-on-one trade.
The more I think about this Jingwei pick, the more I love it for Luminosity, because what does Ratatosker do really well is move around the map. And normally we see Jingweis against Ratatosker because that ultimate gets a lot less value when you're just giving Jingwei an easy route out with that gank. So what is, you have the Ratatosker if you're Luminosity, but remember that Morrigan can transform into it, so Luminosity kind of defending against the gank that they themselves have.
Gold Fury started, and with the transformation from PBM, looks like it's going to be a hard commit. Venenu already burned the Invis. Look out for the flank from behind by Barracuda, which is why LG comes through. Eunited brings the Gold Fury into the Cove, and nobody can find it but Eunited. Successful objective push by EU, and they're looking for an exit.
Panda Cat's going to go in, or get pressured by Mask immediately, but then Baskin's ultimate comes through, then Barra too. So Gold Fury, yes, it goes to Eunited, but the fight's going a different story.
Completely 3 for 1 so far. Venenu going to make that a 3 for 2. Low is the mid laner for Eunited. He'll be chased out successfully, but Benji versus the world finds the push on a 1. Looking for the kill on a Barracuda or Jeff Hindla, whichever comes first. The Thorns chases the Hunter away, and now Benji on the chase for Aquarius, not ready to give up just yet.
He's got that damage already from that Cucullin transformation form, but needs to be a little bit careful because he's about to lose it. Nice jump up and over that driving strike, which would have set Barracuda up nicely, but Ven is still looking for it.
Just off the mark with that. That would have been such a different story, but now Venenu's in trouble. He's dead.
Benji can't control this one either with that little amount of rage. I like the try from Venenu, and honestly, even though he dies, that's just missing the ball. I want to see him make that play 10 times out of 10 because he's going to hit it 9 times out of 10.
United's Gold Fury pull there was well thought out, and it was actually just a ward hidden in the little cove there for Luminosity that allowed them to have the information of that United was doing it. I love the idea to pull it into the Gold Fury pit, kind of taking a page out of Snoopy's book, who loves to do that so much, and try and sneak away a Gold Fury. Panicat is more than willing to take that up at this point. I mean, he's already got the Executioner done, but to invest that much is scary.
The blink forward! Scream not going to be able to find it. Luminosity get the consolation prize of the Portal Demon, but United, they wind up on the bad side of the team fight post Gold Fury, but still get what they were looking for, up about 2K now because of the objective.
And go back to that little team fight engagement too. I mean, Benji was over half health still through that whole engagement, and that's what I was a bit concerned about, is they're going to have a difficult time bringing down this Cucullin with the build he's gone for and the sort of CC potential that Luminosity have on the table.
Well, Luminosity already invested so much to kill Panda Cat and Polar Bear Mike. That's a pretty easy cleanup potential for Benji in that situation. In the further team fights, Luminosity is going to try and be a little bit more wary of where Benji is and when he's coming into the team fight to try and blow him up very quickly, because Barracuda is the same level as Benji, and while Benji has a lot of HP in that build, it's not a lot of physical defense. As soon as Barracuda finishes off what should be a chin size now right after this Executioner, it's going to be a real easy time for him to shred through Benji as long as those Thorns aren't available.
I like the idea coming out from Eunited, but unfortunately they were just a couple of seconds short. 3 players walked through that portal and they said, hey, why don't we catch him by the portal?
Just wait here. Well, one thing looking at relics as well, I mean, you see double Thorns, 2, one for the jungle, one for the solo from each team, but also that frenzy from Jeff. if Eunited actually are patient with their thorns a little bit and wait for Jeff to pop that frenzy, first of all, that could smell disaster for Luminosity.
I love this frenzy pickup. It's something that we haven't seen a lot of. I know we saw it in at least one other set. May have been Obey. They usually like to pick up some different relic choices there, but it's a really underrated item and one that's great with things like Soul and Jingwei on your team when you've got two auto-attack-oriented characters that can make benefit from that extra penetration that it gives you whenever it's upgraded. I mean, these towers won't stand for long, and it's the only way to really compete with Fafnir. Fafnir kind of brings a built-in frenzy with that AoE coerce, but now Luminosity have the same sort of quick end potential that Eunited have with the Fafnir.
I also like the fact that it's on the Bacchus. He's going to use it right before his Intoxicate and then say ready, set, go. So he's going to be able to amplify his own nonsense, which is always fun.
I'm just a little bit concerned about the two thorns that Eunited have, because if they telegraph that frenzy pop at the right time, one of those carries could one-shot themselves, or even Bacchus could kill himself there as well.
I don't know if I like the Thorns as much on Mask as I do on Scream. Scream's going for a hybrid build, an early high the Nemean Lion here to make sure that Barracuda is dissuaded from hitting him with those auto attacks. I'm not sure that Mask is going to be tanky enough to really handle that, though. I mean, he went for a Gladiator Shield, he went for an Anquile, but now working what's probably going to be a Titan's Bane. Now Mask could sell the Bluestone, could sell the Bumbas, and pick up two tanky items there, but for a squishy character, I don't think that Thorns does enough to make me not want to hit them because I know I can kill them so quickly.
Benji being chased up to the right-hand side. Jeff Hindla trying to rotate over will be stopped by Venenu. Benji gets flipped and then won't get kicked. He's going to dash forward, but 3 versus 1. Benji's been fantastic so far and finds the knockup. Here comes PBM post-frenzy from Luminosity. Up in the sky goes Mask looking for a secondary knockup, but Benji safe and sound. Mask's target instead going to be the close-up of Polar Bear Mike, tanky as always, and he'll walk away clean.
Man, that Stone of Gaia passive ends up helping out Benji quite a bit there. He regen a ton of HP right after that knockup from Luminosity in a well-timed ultimate as well, because if he gets stunned out by Jeff Hindla's belch there, he's in a ton of trouble.
And that was my concern with the Stone of Gaia. Luminosity had 3 ways to knock, Bacchus obviously, actually 4. In fact, actually 5. I didn't even think about that. So Baskin knocks up, Jingwei knocks up, Bacchus obviously knocks up, Mask's ultimate does, and then you've still got Hercules.
LG looking for Eunited special here. Brings the Gold Fury down to about 10%. Realize they need to stick to it. Ooh. But here comes Scream all the way on the back line. One shot on a Panda Cat. The third shot's going to be good enough. Mask falls down. Gold Fury completely leashed. Baskin going to be put on a leash by Panda Cat as he makes the mid laner his pet.
Baron now surrounded, has to airstrike back towards his team, but Benji's waiting there too. He's just going to go into zone duty now so the rest of the team can win the fight even more so by getting the Gold Fury.
There's a full-on retreat from Luminosity. They realize that they've just lost the battle. 2 for none. Fantastic response by Eunited. Give a big ups to Scream for starting the party.
One thing I want to say though real quick though, you mentioned it about that Thorns, and that's one thing Mask could have really done with the Aegis there. Yep. He died because Panda Cat is just like, hey, I don't care about your Thorns right now. I'm healthy enough. I'll just snap you out.
Exactly. That's why you need some defense in order to withstand enough autos to make the Thorns worth it. If you're going to die in 5 autos, then the Hunter will take the damage from 5 autos and be okay with it. And in that scenario, that's why I love this Robin selection from Eunited. Venenu transforms into it. He gets to be a frontliner all of a sudden for Eunited when you're not used to having that many tanks running at you. I mean, we saw how effective that was for Elevate to have multiple frontliners coming at you, and that's what Venenu transforms into, but still had the Aegis available to immune the damage from Baskin's ultimate. He absorbs a bunch of cooldowns, backs out, and then has the long-range damage to assist.
I do love this bit, though, here, because as soon as the Gold Fury goes down, what did LG do last time they lost the Gold Fury? They went straight to the Portal Demon. Eunited make a small change. They're ready for it this time, so it's not going to be as easy. Instead, look for it themselves.
Yeah, LG at this point had already gotten the Portal Demon, right? Eunited said, all right, we figured out your whole game plan. You did this the last time. Our turn, Portal Demon brought down about 10%. Rats in the sky, looking for the turnaround, and the leash on the objective, not there just yet. Still being contested, and the Portal Demon goes the way of Eunited as they started it. But the team fight, a different story. Barracuda going to take down Venenu. Basket likely to fall here to the hand of Scream. Gets 1. Benji finds the root. Benji gets the 2nd, and everybody on Luminosity falling to the wayside so far. Jeff Hindla by himself, surrounded, pounded, and he's going to get grounded. Benji with the last
Barracuda.
hit. Aquarius answers first.
Hello, Barracuda. Welcome back to the engagement. Boulder absorbed by the Aegis. Now Barra's under pressure because Benji is a man mounted in this engagement. You give him a Raven, you give him a Cucullin. They can't do anything.
Just, oh my goodness. Benji here, surrounded by players, still going to look for the tower. Aquarius so much more healthy than Benji over here, but Polar Bear Mike still going to help out. Aquarius brought down to half HP, and the Tier 1 tower goes to the wayside.
If you've been wondering why we talk so highly of Benji and what he's able to do on land, just go ahead and watch that team fight back, because nothing Luminosity has can make an answer for what Benji's done so far in these team fights. First player to level 20, 5-1-4. He's got 5,000 more damage than anyone else in the game, and it just feels unkillable right now from Luminosity.
All of these plays, I mean, the first blood started by Benji and Scream on the right side of the map. The continuation when we saw the Gold Fury, Benji zoning out the entire damn team, and then we see a couple of these counter engagements with the knockups. And Ryan, you know, I asked you before the game. I said, "Yo, who's going to carry?" And you were just like, "Benji." No doubt in your mind. Why were you so confident in this guy?
This dude has just been a beast on land his whole career. And you know, his own teammates have said they wish that they could get him to focus as much online as they can on land. But, you know, when he comes to play, he's an absolute monster.
And, you know, I'm glad you brought up that focus. Hold this thought so far. Is United going to respond to Luminosity in their own jungle? Mask shows up, and, well, Jeff Hindler
just
put down quickly.
In a matter of seconds, too. I don't think he had a chance to do anything there apart from just disappear.
Had his ultimate available, never even got a chance to get it off. And that Spirit's Robe that Jeff just finished by being sent back to base forcibly will end up helping him out in this match.
Well, it's also the trade-off of that Frenzy versus a Shell. The Shell could have absorbed a bit more damage for him.
They're going to do this.
But this is a heavy commit from Eunited here. Mask, keep an eye on him. He's the real one to try and slow this idea down.
I wasn't sure if it was going to be a heavy commit. You can see the turnaround here. Polar Bear Mike, however, going to turn around, coerce his teammate, and look right back to the zone duty. Fire Giant goes down. Mask up way too late. Completely too late. And the team fight isn't even there as Scream and Panda Cat back off.
They just didn't realize how much damage output United could do so quickly with only a few people on the objective. For 24 minutes in, that did go down very quickly.
And that's the power of Fafnir. That's why I said that Jeff Hindler's got the Frenzy in order to try and compete with that. You've got a Rom who does great with extra attack speed because everything he does is about auto attacks. You've got even Scream who is in there doing some good auto attack damage. Everyone could do good auto attack damage when you get hit with a Coerce. And Polar Bear Mike's ultimate is well timed there. Not only does it set up for that objective burn, but it creates a zone that Luminosity doesn't want to go through.
Ty, right from the start of the game, I was talking about Benji being an issue for them with that Stone of Gaia. Well, he's continued to look at his player damage. I mean, yes, some of that is from solo lane, but then compare what Hercules has done. There's an additional 7K there.
Nah, Benji has earned, you know, all of the numbers that are sitting in his stat column this game. There wasn't too much fake damage in that solo lane. All the times that we saw them bang around, it wound up in a kill or a full-out retreat.
But you can't even peel him. That's the problem, this Cullen. How do you peel him away from your carries?
You can't, and because he doesn't need to be hitting your carry to be doing damage because of that extra anger pulsing out around him in that rage form.
I love how Eunited are playing this composition. Usually what we see is we see the four-man group up and then the assassin slide into the jungle looking for the flank. Well, Scream is playing on the Raven, so he's part of the four-man group up. And guess who's making the slide? It's Venenu on the mage assassin that's known as Morgan.
I do like the idea there from Luminosity to defend the tier 2 towers as well. It's not something we see too much of, but I do think they've got a decent enough comp to defend if we see United dive all the way in.
They just make the posture, though. It's not the full-on commit. We don't see the blink engage. No. It's just, hey, we're standing here. Go do something else real quick and think about this for a second.
And look at the respect that you saw United give to Luminosity. They're like, okay, fine, we'll take the goal for you, then we'll come again, and this time split it up.
See, Venenu slides out to the right, chases out Mask, Scream comes along, and now you're able to get this two-pronged assault where both towers are being pushed on. But left side, we see the Hercules kind of shoving United in this jungle.
Jeff's already pushed out for a second as Mask comes into the back line looking to engage, but blink over the wall from Scream, and in comes Venenu as well. Takes out Mask, Panda in the sky, looking to make something more happen.
He's already got both his relics down, but he's looking for Aquarius over the wall, but Scream's going to take care of it for him.
And there's Jeff Hindler stuck right in the crosshairs one more time. Scream with the double kill. And the tier 2 tower in the mid lane will fall down. Everybody healthy, everybody fire gianted, and the mid lane Phoenix also going to go down as well.
I'm pretty sure when you look back at what the desk said, they favored a United with the picks and bans. It's coming to fruition more than anything else. They had a nicely executed composition that played to its strengths throughout. The strengths really have been the Cucullin and the Raven with a little bit of a spicy Morrigan if required.
For me, it's not about the composition. I still love Lumi's composition. I think Aquarius, Mask, Baskin, Jeff, and Barra got 5 of their top 3 gods, right? If you ask these guys, what do you want to play? This draft probably shows up. I think at the end of the day, Benji is just this variable that goes off, and it doesn't matter what happened earlier. Benji's just that damn good sometimes.
I mean, sure, but this kind of screams last year's LG again, where they're just slightly off the pace of things once more, you know? Like, what was the big item we saw more of this weekend? Stone of Gaia. Everyone started to notice it. Deathwalker brings it in. Everyone starts to adapt to it. LG, though, they draft a composition all around knockups when Stone of Gaia is seen as a big item.
See, here's the thing. I don't think they drafted knockups straight up. I think they just drafted what they were comfortable with and then got in the game and went, oh crap, all we do is knockup.
Look, knockups are still insane. I mean, just because Stone of Gaia is very strong
It's the best you see in the game, agreed.
I still want as many knockups as I can on my team. I think it's just that Luminosity didn't get a chance to answer what Benji was doing.
Yeah.
The team fights of Luminosity won. Who's the big difference maker? It's Baskin most of the time in the mid lane, but he fell behind because Veneno was able to get a lot of that neutral farm, having the pressure that Scream was able to provide. And then Benji rotates in, and Baskin hasn't been an impact since because he doesn't have the damage to really kill Benji with the build that he's gone for. Just a little bit lacking on the penetration. I understand that with the Dynasty Platinum and the pen boots, you don't really want to build into another pen item right away. Instead, he goes for the hastened ring, but you needed some sort of extra shred onto Benji if you want to contest him. But I'm not sure that even with an Obsidian Shard, even with a Demonic Grip, whatever sort of pen option Baskin wants to go for in that slot, it would have been enough because Benji was just so far ahead by that point.
And now that failed engagement in the mid lane means they lose a tier 2 and a Phoenix, this will force Luminosity to now play Phoenix defense. This is the best opportunity back into this, is wait for the siege at the Phoenix, have a good little team fight there where you push them off. We've seen it a lot of time this weekend with the extra health for the Phoenixes. It has come into play, and that's why they're going to surrender this Fire Giant.
Veneno and Eunited looking to pick up this one. And like you said, LG not going to look for it at all. Eunited well above the 10,000 gold mark. Here, just shy of a half hour, 16-11. United lead in all relevant categories. And with that Fire Giant, Ryan, they're looking extra scary.
For what it's worth, I also don't, I haven't not really been a fan of the Bacchus selection here for Luminosity. I mean, Aurora picked it in there against for Trifecta, and it didn't look good there either. I just don't think that he particularly fits the meta very well. His lane clear isn't very good. He doesn't bring a lot of safety to your carries. And there's enough, the gods that are being played in the jungle right now excel at getting into the backline. So you don't really need that extra backline penetrator in your draft, in my mind. You've already got plenty with Aquarius and Mask playing 2 gods that can make life difficult for the Morrigan and for Rom. I would have rather seen Jeff on something like a Geb that can try and save Baskin from Benji, that can try and set up and blow Benji up for other people.
But I do see the idea behind it because of the fact of this is what LG are looking at. There's triple tank and 2 backliners. One of the issues a lot of teams have had is getting to the backliners. One of the best guardians for getting to the backline is the fat man that can flop into him and cause him a lot of issues. So it does get the idea.
But that's the trap against triple guardian 2 backline compositions. You need to just kill the front line and let the backline fall after that. It's too hard to get into the backline initially.
Well, Benji looking for the front line. Here's a little flip on Polar Bear Mike. Aquarius tries to change things. Scream with the blink forward. Ultimate out of the Hercules. Phoenix already down. Barracuda gets jumped on. Thorns activated. Doesn't bait him in, however. Up in the sky goes Mask looking for the initiation. 2 birds down already. Mid lane has respawned. Polar Bear Mike leading the charge. Perhaps a little bit too deep, but his team going to finish off mid lane. Barracuda finishes off Polar Bear Mike. It's a 1-for-1 so far.
Barra will get out, but Panda pulled back in for a second. Has to roll away back to safety, but Benji's still on the backside, whacking away.
So aggressive.
The Titan is not doing any damage to these frontliners.
Not at all. Half HP on the Titan already. United just forcing this push. Right now, the Titan gonna fall down despite LG's best effort.